Hi Raghav, I'm Raghamita and we have Abhinav and Himani with us from IIM Lucknow, and we welcome you to the I Started Up series. We're inspired with your journey of being an institute rank holder of IML to being a co-founder of F5 Refreshment aggregator platform that aims to standardize workplace retail space by providing support to local vendors. So it's a pleasure to have you here with us and welcome once again.
Guys, thanks a lot. And I am really, really appreciate your initiative. And I'm really, hopeful that, this tradition goes well in the future to come.
Thank you, Raghav. We expect the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, were you always motivated to start up, and how did the idea of starting F5 shape up?
So I think we were interested. So I think me and my co-founder, so Lalit, we both were interested, starting something of our own. From the sixth semester, I think fifth semester itself, we were having the discussion. So I met Lalit, on the induction day of Lalit. So it was the first day, and he was a part of the section where we used to, have a induction days. You must be knowing, right? So from that day itself, the bonding continued. And he also comes from a bit, financially comfortable family, and I also come from a bit financially comfortable family. So we knew that, it is always better to start early than later. Although that rule of thumb is, not always applicable, but we realize that, the opportunity cost keep on increasing. So there was always a, what we say, a startup bug that was there in us. And I think more or less when, I went to a vendors and when I went to student exchange. So in a vendors, I was working with digital media and technology team. So there you actually read, talk to entrepreneurs on a daily basis. I think never been a day where you have not read about any new thing or new startup, coming in your life. So I think that keep on continuing, and then that bug keep on increasing. And similarly, so Lalit was also, Lalit got the PPO from, Edelweiss during his summer intern, and then so he was also having a free time to think on, kya karna hai. So then we were just discussing, and frankly speaking, the idea was to start something of our own. It was not to what to start. That was the next step. The first was, take a jump. So we realized that, let's have a timeline, what we want to do. And normally, I would say again, it's not a rule of thumb that whether you should have a startup and then you jump, or whether you jump and then you figure out an idea. It normally works. It's very, very, I would say, personal. No one knows what journeys, you take. So I think more or less it is, I and Lalit both were not from, coming from that mindset, we want to stay long for corporate and then do a startup. It was more like doing something of our own. If everything works well, then it's nothing better than that. If nothing happens for some reason, still I think the corporate world and, the environment is quite open to accepting the thing. So yeah, I think the maturity of ecosystem has grown. The F5 idea, I think, was in the journey. Then we were exploring a few of the ideas at that point of time. We were having some of the ideas there, and even during that last I would say 2 years of discussion with me and Lalit, there was a fair understanding on what we can or we are capable of doing. So this was something we just tried, and we saw that first of the seed capital is requirement is limited, as well as there's a huge need gap in the industry which can be sorted, and you can do a minimum viable product testing on a relatively smaller scale. So these were some of the things which we thought that this we can continue. And frankly speaking, when we started, we we were working on 2 or 3 ideas in one go. And I think pretty much within 10 to 15 days we realized that this is not possible. You have to focus on only one idea. Normally, we try to hedge by doing that, and I think it is good to start with, but you start realizing that which one is going to take a lot of time of yours and you are making sense of it. So yeah, that is how that idea came, of continuing into this space. I would say what we started with and what we currently have is very different. What we started with was a very simple cash flow positive local business which more or less would take care of our basic, bread and butter. That was how we thought of starting this whole, gamut of making it to another level, a company, a startup, and all that stuff. So our idea was कि खुद कुछ करना है. It was we never get excited कि यार valuations हैं या वो सब चीजें. That is just the the output or the product of it. So, but now we see how the journey over the past 2 years have evolved. I think we are on a fairly good business model than what we started, and that I think is should be the the approach. You never have a perfect business model at the start, but the important is you fail fast and you learn fast. That is the thing I learned in the journey.
So you were telling that there were many ideas like you were working upon, but then again you came to this. So generally, many people have these ideas, and everybody has to cross out this first decision dilemma, right? So what are the factors that you have gone through, like while you're figuring out, okay, this is the idea I would work upon?
So I think when you are chalking out firstly, and then you are striking down the ideas, you have to take into consideration the general level trends that are happening, and your idea should not be way ahead of the time, I would say. Because see, it is a success of a startup is not only how much hard work a founder puts. That is not actually the outcome. Even every you guys have given the cat and everything, and in the past also you would have realized that there's a lot of factors that are responsible for the success, or are responsible for what you guys have achieved. So the similar is true to, I would say, a startup. And so the idea is to minimize all those factors which can affect your success. So just saying that if you come up with some idea which has already a matured market, or you think that there's a mature market, I will do some other way around. Normally it is like it is the established players already have a lot of skill set and the team and the resources that they can simply copy that part. So I think that is one thing. So how mature the market is, it should not be way ahead of time and way uh, past of time. Like if I ask or think of starting some semi closed wallet now, it is not the right time. Although I will find maybe some loopholes in the current payment system. So that is, I would say, is one thing, the general trends in the industry, what are happening, because you can't fight with the tide that is going on. Secondly, I would say the minimum viable product testing. Sometimes there is like something like may take $1 million or $2 million even before coming to any revenue discussion, right? So you should be aware about that this is something I'm getting into, and this is pretty much fine. Whereas sometimes you start upfront and the revenue starts coming up. So that is pretty much the orientation and how the industry is. Like right now edtech is very hot, right? But that is something people have jumped. We have also known people have just jumped because if you say that you are in an edtech industry, you may get a easier funding, right? So that is the second part, which I would say, that where the initial cost of starting up the project is concerned, and how comfortable you are with that. Thirdly, and most importantly, is how much motivated or how much interested you are in that startup. So normally what happens is you start with a very high energy, but just by working 6 days, or I would say a month or 2 months, you realize that this is not your cup of tea. So that's why we always say, and everyone will guide, that it is okay to fail, but it is important to you that you fail fast. As a founder, I and Lalit always have a mindset of building a sustainable and scalable business. We never thought of we raise capital and then we just exit, and we wanted to build a company which is continuing and has a legacy of its own. So that was an idea. maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. It's purely, let's see in future how it comes up. But that was an idea. So we never were in a hurry of raising the capital. We were never in the hurry of doing anything which we knew that is to be done just to attract the capital. And I think that actually paid us well, because now the discussion on profitability and all that, after the COVID, people have started discussing that profitability is as much important as your growth. So I think we were on the same track from 2018, you can say. And that helped when you negotiate with your investors. When you are at a comfortable position, you can negotiate well, I would say. And you know what you are, what asset you have in your, in your, I would say, in your kitty, which you are telling to the investor. So people see, people understand. If you're burning, then ball is in the court of, the investor. So these are the parameters that you always look for.
So Raghav, at this point, you have talked about the investors and how do you, dealt with them. Can you explain to me the business model of F5? For our information
Uh,
and for our viewers.
sure. So, like I told you, when we started, it was quite different, and I think over the journey, the business model evolved. So, I will just tell you a brief of the journey, and then the current scenario that we have. So, the idea was to building a brand in the daily refreshment market. जब हम चाय, coffee इन सब की बात करें, it was a very tough industry. It is currently also a tough industry. So you have you have chayos, you have chai point kind, but these are like one of the cases where you go and visit them. So when we used to see that and there were players like Milk Basket were coming, Country Delight were coming, which were basically organizing the household retail in a very unique way of that go to market strategy was organizing the milk industry. And once you get into the household and then you oversell more products, दूध बेचा, फिर दही बेची, फिर bread बेचे, फिर you keep on increasing the average order value. So our idea was that let's think about if this tea industry, this daily tea industry is really a big market, from a very basic, I would say, a shopkeeper to MNCs. The refreshment is something which is a part and parcel of our work day life. So we thought that and this has to be solved, something somewhere, something has to be done. This can't be continued for long. So that was the problem that we took, and we realized that even if you do a small market sizing, as small as if you talk about Aliganj in Lucknow, right? So they are like every shop has a monthly bill of around 3 to 4 thousand on tea. And in a small area there is like 15 150 to 200 shops, so kahin nahi jate. So this was a pretty unexplored market. No one was thinking on that. Everyone was on like chai or chai, and this was more like we were looking at more as an entry into the workplace retail. Then you make an cross sell meals, snacks, fresh fruits, everything you can do. The entry is important. So like what milk was for household retail, we thought of tea as an entry into the daily workplace retail industry. So that is where we started. We started with a cloud kitchen model. We have to chalk down how the delivery will happen to ensure that per cup cost of tea is like 8 to 10 rupees. It is as competitive as what the market offers. We were not even charging like 12 or 15 rupees, and you are providing it with a better service and all that stuff. So that was the initial model that we started in Lucknow. 4-5 lakhs per month revenue was within first 3 to 4 months only. And we were very easily, we were break even in Lucknow. So then we moved to Delhi for a better visibility, better understanding of what next and how to scale. So in MVP, you always start with a minimum viable product, then you look for a scalable MVP, and then you look for a profitable scalable MVP. This is basically how the things work. So in Delhi, when we came, we realized that one more important market that exists is it's an impulse demand. It is not a subscription based demand. कि सुबह शाम की तो like in mess we have like शाम को 4 बजे चाय बनती है और सुबह 9 बजे नाश्ते का चाय बनती है. But normally also we have the impulse demand, and where you visit, to customers and you greet them with tea and coffee, or some officers, office you treat to greet them. So that's a variable demand, we define it, and it has a much more scope. It you can have a comparable to what Swiggy tried to do with a Swiggy Pop, with a short meal or a short order, small order, one meal, one order type, and that pocket friendly. But our idea then was, the cup should be like 10 or 15, 10 rupees per cup. You can't even go for a 20-25 rupees per cup, at least initially. So we devised that model that, if you are ordering tea and you get it within 15 to 20 minutes, that is hygienic quality, and the price is at rupees 10 only, because that is also a massive market to crack. So these two things we solved, that of course required technology and all that stuff. But the markets are really big. So even if you just are selling tea, you are making a lot of profit. You don't have to think of anything else. Then the third idea, which is where many people got excited and where we also felt very excited, was tying up with existing refreshment shops, branding them as an F5 store. It is more like, you can think of Oyo model for hotels. What we are doing is for the refreshment stores. So we brand them as an F5 store. There are, along with tea and coffee, there are other products which are supplied by F5 suppliers at these stores. Customers get at the same rate at what they are getting from the other refreshment shops, but at the same rate, but at a very good quality and price. So this whole ecosystem approach started evolving, where you have a subscription is also being provided by F5, where variable or impulse demand is also provided by F5, and where if you want to go out and you want to have some tea and coffee or snacks, or it can range from even digital services, courier services, pickup. There's no limit what you can do at offline touch points. So this was how now the model stands. We have the stores, we have the F5 partnered stores in Delhi, we have impulse demand, and we are catering to subscription customers. So we never thought of this store model or something at the start. Now it is I think fairly 8-9 months that this store thing is running. We position it as it's a hyper local ecosystem, and where you have subscribed customers, you have supply points, you have retail presence, and you also own the hyper local logistics, which is a very powerful model. If you think in future, you can cross sell and upsell a lot of products through this ecosystem, and you will find no one is doing such kind of a space, because it is really not, it's very operational heavy kind of a stuff.
So Raghav, as you said that you acquired, like you had a revenue of 4 to 5 lakhs in just a few months. So what's the secret of having a huge customer base in such a short stint?
I think the industry, the market already existed. That is where, I think what worked well and what we were very aware of, that so there were a lot of discussions, right? I think from where we guys come, in India has a lot of brand poverty, right? And you will find a lot of brands are coming up, from healthy snacks to apparels to anything, so anything you figure out, you will find that there's a lot of scope for creating brands. What we were very interested in, that that our brand should keep on interacting with our customers on a very frequent basis. And I think this was something when we were doing the market sizing, and when we were doing, I think this is much bigger market than we talk about, a simple, I would say, the restaurant market, or because this is very highly frequent, and it is, you can see within COVID, even after COVID, we were back to our pre-COVID revenue within 2 to 2.5 months, because as the shops start opening, or as the offices start opening, people require tea, people require meals, right? So So we were like within 2 months, we were back to our, pre-COVID numbers. And I think by now we are like 2 to 2.5x of what we were doing earlier. So you have to be very sure that, your product is the need that you are catering to of your customers, that is really compelling. There's a decent need gap that exists. So that is, I think that's the thing worked well for us.
Raghav, can you tell me about some of the challenges that you might have faced, in this industry, which was new and you had a lot of competition also?
So I think the competition, that one good thing that we were, having was we were actually not having a competition, because Chai Point were not the target that we were looking at. We were not looking at, setting up the outlets or setting up a premium pricing, premium product, experience driven product. We were more into, it should be a functional with a good, I would say, not only functional, it have some hedonic benefits of, that perceived value of hygiene, perceived value of, quality. But of course, the way we were pricing and the way our strategy was to, penetrate the industry, penetrate the market. So Chayos and Chai Point were never, we ever thought of them as, our competitors. So I think our competitor actually local vendors. And where, if you see, just like, if you compare Flipkart, Amazon with, the earlier we used to have the electronic market, so the competition was basically from the local vendors, which have their own, small business which they are running. The rentals are very low for them, and the running cost is very low for them. So they are able to provide at a very good price to the customers. So that was, I think, the major challenge was, to compete with the unorganized, which is, I think, in India it is not, it is not very easy. It is, if you are not structurally strong, how much we say about, organizing these, organizing the unorganized market, it is not as simple, because there are some nuances of the unorganized market which you have to respect. So that's why this, even the F5 store model, which where we are partnering with the existing shops, it could have been, we could have set up our own stores and could have set up our own, shops. But the idea was no. So it should be scalable. We should be fast in, execution, and the value proposition should make sense to when we are partnering the any store. So I think the major challenge was, cutting through the unorganized market, understanding the nuances of how they operate, and if we have to operate in an organized format, how we are able to, serve the customer. Because there are two problems that we're having, that because we don't want to play with a premium, we want to have a market rate. And the cost of organization was really high, because you have delivery cost, production cost, and all. So our focus was, cost optimization, because if we are able to deliver that, I think customer onboarding was not a challenge. You will definitely find some challenges that, people have the relationship, and maybe you will find that, uh, some tea vendor or someone is serving my grandfather, and then father, and now this, so I can't say no. And these things keep on coming, but they are like, maybe 1 year, 2 year, 3 year post that, you realize. So that underlying, what I said, brand poverty and people becoming more hygiene and, quality and brand conscious, I think over time that is going to be the case. So market says, I'd say we were not having any issues. We were more having, our focus was on the operation and the cost, to ensure that we are able to serve at, the competitive pricing.
So in the last question, you have spoken about COVID-19, and there was some impact during that period. So did you try to
Mhm.
diversify or like to look out for other opportunities during that period?
Actually, there was a discussion that we were having with the investors also, that, pivoting and, all that stuff. But what we were looking at, it is better. We were quite confident on, what we were doing. Actually, the re-emphasis the COVID just re-emphasized that, we were basically selling hygiene, we were basically selling quality, we were basically selling, you know, at the same price. Even if you are okay to pay a premium of a two or 1 or 2 rupees, that I think people have become a bit more conscious. I don't know that how long the consumer will be the same. Even we are not hoping that customers will be as hygiene or as health conscious as this vaccine pass. You can see how with the removal of restrictions, people have again came back to without using the mask and all that stuff. So we are not piggy banking on the COVID will change the Indian consumer psyche. कुछ changes हो सकते हैं, but not it will not change the business models. I think that will be over time as the people's disposable income increases, as they will keep on learning more about the importance of health and things. That will be a slow process. We are not looking at any knee jerk reaction coming up. So I think when you categorize yourself and when you find that pivoting is important, it is very related to what you are doing, then that makes sense. And pivoting is never a problem. People do pivot even at a very bigger scale. But yeah, there should be a sound reason for pivoting. I think we didn't felt that, and I think that worked for us.
So we'd also like to know your vision for the company for the future years.
So basically, like uh, earlier when we started also, our idea is not to uh, just like build and grow and sell it to some investor or some company and just take home some money and then figure out something new. So our idea was to build this company stronger and maybe in future list the company on a stock exchange. So we look from that angle of making a sustainable long term business, uh, and that is where we think we are heading towards also. I think a lot of things are happening on O2O space, and people are realizing the importance of ecosystem and profitability and all that stuff. So we are positive about that. So I think in the future also we are looking at expanding and growing this business itself to more markets and more I would say a national level presence, and that is what we are hoping for. Let's see how the things pan out.
Raghav, what role, if any, did IIM Lucknow play, in this entrepreneurial journey of yours?
I think yeah, it is wrong to say if any. I would say it played a decent amount of role. I think the major importance is the perception that it changes. The way you look at the business when you were before an MBA. I wouldn't say I am. I would say I have interacted with a couple of B schools which were also have a decent you know uh, I would say professors and the students. And I would say the B schools rather than IIMs, I would say the importance they hold is they improve and they improvise your perception of business, how you look at the business, what are the various functions you look of, which I think before IIM was more like we were looking at very local way of doing the business. We were not sure of business processes, how to make it structural, how to make it scalable. I think that is very important thing. Secondly, I think of course the network helps. Now I think even they have started with I am like now fund, and I think investors also give you a bit of that benefit of doubt that okay, you guys are passed out from this, so you must have done something and you will do something with our money. So I think that helps. That is just the first phase. More after that, I think it is purely what you have done that matters. So I think yeah, networking it helps, and the perception it helps definitely. And even I think we came to the talk. We came to the college having a discussion with professors, what we are doing, how should we do. So of course there is, both the angles, the theoretical and the practical, but yeah, it helped. Definitely it helped.
Yeah, Raghav, so after passing out from IIM, you had a short stint at Avendus Capital. So
Mhm.
was it? Did you have apprehensions while leaving a high-profile job for starting up from scratch?
Okay, so I think, yeah, that is always on the minds of students about the placement and taking that jump. And I think that is, I would say, decently placed. I would not comment that that is not important, and what this is, I would say bullshit, or it is not that. Because uh I think the risk appetite is different for different individuals, as well as what the objective you want to pursue in your life, that is also a bit different. I would not, and one important thing is, don't just jump in the startup world just because you have read some news articles on your story or VCC circle. Don't jump because that you have done that, because that is just a fizzle that will fizzle out very early. So have that deep conviction that you want to do. Over time you realize that you become much more mature when you are in the industry. I would say general management is as good as consulting or financing. So I have seen people doing very well after going to general management, right? So those a few of I think psychological blocks that we develop at campus, very very fast you get those fizzle out when you go into the industry. People, so I think there was, that is a record, like 30% of the campus changes the job within 6 to 7 months of their joining. And that's true, and that has happened with our, so that's fine, I think. So placement is not final, I would say. But jumping, it is again the risk appetite. You have to be sure that if you have loans uh, which you have to serve, or you have a family which depends upon you, or you are just about to get into get married, and that personal space comes into place. So a lot of factors do play, and that's why I would say it is not, you can't generalize what is the right time to start.
So Raghav, last question for you, and I think it is the most important for me as a person, as and for all the persons viewing this video, that what is your advice for future entrepreneurs in this country and in our institute?
Okay, if you want to pursue, if you want to really if you have that, I think where the people fail is because they are not true to what they want to build. I think the motivation is not from within. So we always have that discussion, if we keep on pursuing, there will be some solution. The You have to be perseverance. I think the perseverance is very important. You keep on pursuing, and somewhere you will get the hit. It is a tough space, it is a tough world. The benefit is that the industry is quite open to, even if you plan out to go back to, because when we were talking to VCs and their firms, most of those people are either ex entrepreneurs of successful startups, and more so of failed startups. So I think that comfort level is there, that there is perception. But yeah, don't do something just which is just fictional, or which is just outside layering. If it comes within, then only you push, and just be sure that these LinkedIn posts or your stories and all, they doesn't matter. What matters is you know uh, the day-to-day job that you are doing. If you are happy, then I think we have never taken any off, or maybe we have taken off, it will be a day or two, just for some. So हमें लगता ही नहीं कि हम काम कर रहे हैं, right? And I think this is the best time, means where India is standing, and how much you know I would say disorganization I see in the world around India. If you have gone to developed countries like in Europe or US, you will find India require a lot of things.
So Raghav, one question I had was like, how did you acquire your customer? So even like while you're, I mean, you have bigger clients now, right? So like, how do you go about it? Like how do you show? Because of course, there are many competitors out there. So how do
Mhm.
you yourself, get you stand out?
So I think, frankly speaking, that is something, the initial, I think, set of customers, maybe even if you find that that are not as important or they are not as big. And one more, I think in the discussion, that part I think I want to add, where people just miss out on things, is that we think that this work is small, or this work is मैं तो I am cynical now, and how can I do that, right? And that ego part does, you will find an hit, and definitely it will be a big hit. We have videos where we are making the tea and Lalit is making the tea and we are even washing sometimes. That is something that you are doing just because that's not superficial. You have that vision, that idea in mind to what you're doing. So Lalit, I think just a month ago, shared that picture where I was making the tea. And you can imagine, from a vendors from BKC, you are in Lucknow and you are making the tea for some customers which are, which you think that maybe you would have never thought of interacting. But I think that is the beauty, being close to the market and being close to the customer, which teaches you a lot, and there is no shortcut to that. So when we went out to making first customers, I think, uh, always don't go for a big fish in the start, because you can make a lot of mistakes, because a big fishes require you, as simple as a current account or an NEFT or a registered company and GST registration. Just I'm giving you just the superficial things. Apart from the product and service is quite different. So just start with a smaller fishes. I would not say fishes, it is more like customers, I would say. Understand what you're doing, improvise your product and your service. Then it's more like the standard we use, the sales funnel, and you just create the systems internally, that so the one thing that I am taught us was making the thing from the business, from the processes point, so that then only you can scale. If right now we are sitting in three units are running, and we have planned for 10, or maybe in future 100 unit, that can only come if you have institutionalized the processes. So I think, very on, even if whatever you are doing, you have to ensure that you have to set up the processes that in coming future someone else will do for you. You have to be very sure that your mindset is in that way. And I think even that works with hiring, or sales, or operations or finance. You just have to ensure that your orientation is not towards sitting and being in the process. Then you won't be able to grow. So you have to move outside of the system, and then you have to learn. uh, and I think from the sales also, we did initial customer onboarding. We talked to, I would say, local customers and all that, improved our product. And then even I think bigger customers, like if I talk about some retail chain which owns the malls, or some insurance houses for their offices, I think then that's just the same pitch. You just keep on doing. That's just a copy paste. Just you have to ensure that your team has decent clarity of all those things.
That's really very insightful, Raghav. And yeah, I think we have learned a lot from the interview today, and like, dealing with the first decision dilemma was a great piece of advice. And we are sure that it will help all the young minds rekindling entrepreneurship and finding a way to choose the right one from that. And also about how you inclined your interests and perspective from the college time itself, and focusing on sustainable business from the start is something everyone should learn from in this VUCA setup
Yes.
going on right now.
Sure, definitely, yeah. Then you are at the whims of your investor. If the investor says, "यार नहीं मुझे industry में पैसा नहीं लगाना या market खराब होगी," then you're just really gone. तो वो ध्यान में रखना.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
thanks.
was great talking to you guys. Yeah.
It is same from us too. And yeah, thanks a lot for taking time
Thanks.
out to interact with us. And on behalf of my team, I would like to say that we love your spirit of constant learning, improving things during downtime, and the confidence you carry while dealing them. And we learned from you that nothing is small or big when you're passionate about it. And we are looking forward to
Thanks.
see much bigger in the coming years. And we feel humbled to have interacted with you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Raghav.
Thank you.